Then you're going to look 90 degrees off the side of your boat and sight where the line should be. Okay, so here's a square. This is a right angle off of your boat. Okay, and that purple line is 180. So guys, the main thing we want to focus on this weekend is getting our pre-start procedure down and successfully implementing it. Okay, so you should have a routine that you go through before every race that you ever do. That's really important. So I wrote down the routine in 4 steps here. It shouldn't say rules, it should say procedure or something like that. We could add another step between 1 and 2, maybe check the course. So check the course basically means check where the weather mark is. Where is the weather mark? So some people think that if the weather mark is off to the right side of the course, it's better to start at the boat, and if it's off to the left side of the course, it's better to start at the pin. That's not actually true. It doesn't really matter. If the starting line is square and you're inside of the ley line, a boat at either end has the same amount of distance to get to the weather mark. But it's a good thing to check out. It's just another thing to incorporate into the routine. Where is the weather mark? What's the long tack to the mark? Because that factors into your tactics and your strategy as well. So make sure that you go through this procedure here, check the line, check the wind and current, kind of get a general idea in your head about what you think the fleet's going to do, how everyone's going to behave, and make a strategy. The image here is the start of a video I took at the last regatta. This race was called off because the race committee made a mistake.
Is that a jib shot?
They started they took the P flag down 1 minute early, and then they took the class flag down 1 minute early, and they gave the start off 1 minute early. Okay, the point is Jake won the pin. Okay, the point is, first, the flags are the rule. Okay, if the P flag comes down, that means you have 1 minute left. If your watch says you have 2 minutes left and the P flag comes down, from that point you have 1 minute left. Okay, the flags are official. The horns don't mean a thing. They're courtesy. So if that P flag comes down, that means you have 1 minute left, is what your brain should automatically think. And when the class flag comes down 1 minute later, that's the start. So in this situation, all your watches said 2 minutes when the P flag came down, and they said 1 minute when the class flag came down because the race committee made a mistake. Jake saw that the P flag came down 1 minute early, and he reset and realized what was going on and was ready for the start 1 minute early when the race committee made a mistake. So the pin end is very, very, very heavily favored. You see Jake is almost taking off 90 degrees to the line. It's hugely favored. And if we go to our rule in the last video, that you should never be more than 2 boat lengths below the line here, okay? Every single other boat in the fleet is breaking that rule. Okay, so even if you think you had an extra minute, that's still not an excuse, because you're still not close to where you need to be, and you didn't do your pre-start research right. You didn't realize that the pin end is heavily favored, and you never should have been more than 2 boat lengths to leeward of it. So you should have been hanging out in this area ready to take off the entire time. So most of our sailors at this moment are tucked in here in the line sag, at the middle end of the starting line, and it's quite literally about a 100-yard disadvantage from Jake, who won the pin, to everyone else who's stuck over in the line sag in the middle of the line here. So very, very serious difference between those who did their pre-start research and those who didn't. Okay, so those who checked the line and realized how heavily favored the pin was would have been here, ready for it, waiting. Okay, those who had been watching the flags on the committee boat would have been here, ready for it, waiting. So we don't even want to worry about or think about that the race committee made a mistake. We want to realize that we were not where we needed to be, and we were not where we needed to be because we did not do the appropriate research before the race. We checked the line, the course, the wind, and all of those things multiple times, as you should before every single race, would have been, well, at least across the line by now at the pin end near Jake, if not ahead of him. Okay, so seems like everyone was focused on lining up next to the guys next to him and beating the guy next to him off the starting line, when we missed the big picture perspective about where we really needed to be. Everyone needed to be right here, right at the pin. And to be honest, it was completely and totally obvious. Okay, we didn't do the pre-start research to figure it out. So if this happens again this weekend, it's going to be different. We're going to have done our research. We're going to know where the line skew is. We're going to know where the weather mark is. We're going to know what the wind's doing. And we're going to know where we need to be on the starting line when the race starts, because we're going to have checked the line multiple times and figured out and formulated the correct strategy based off of the information that we collected. So I want to make the point that Jake didn't have to beat anyone or fight for anyone or compete with anyone to win the Pinette. He won it by a mile by himself, uncontested. Okay, so there was no skill really whatsoever in his ability, in his boat handling ability, or his boat or anything like that to actually win the start. Okay, the skill set that he utilized to put himself in this position was the pre-start research and understanding the course and all of those factors. Okay, so it was really, I don't know, it was really obvious. So it was really frustrating to see us all lost. So we want to make sure that we don't ever let anything like this happen to us. This video is a little bit later on in the day, so we kind of had figured out what was going on a little bit better. We're going to see Ryan port tack the fleet and win the start really pretty easily. The 1 minute gun has already sounded. We're at like 35-40 seconds right now. Look at this line sag. It's insane. It's huge. Okay, so let's watch for this weekend. Someone could literally be right here. Okay, they could be sitting on the line right here all by themselves, 20 boat lengths, and that's not an exaggeration, above everyone else, and take off and go, no worries. And this is Ryan right here. Okay, the pin's heavily favored in this situation. Is he competing with anyone for the start? Is there anyone there jockeying with the start for him? He actually makes a mistake of being below the ley line to the pin. He wouldn't have crossed the pin on starboard tack. Okay, so did that look hard to do? Was there anything? There was nothing hard to do about that. There was the skill was not in executing the maneuver itself. The skill was in knowing that that was the right thing to do, because he did his pre-start research and checked the line multiple times. He's launched here. Okay, he's already won the race at this point, easily. Actually, Carter Cox bangs the left and rounds the marks ahead of him. So in the light air in Marina del Rey, the left coming in is something that you definitely want to look for. So I think hopefully we've gone over the idea of collecting your pre-start research and formulating the proper strategy for the given conditions and race course enough. So if you have questions about it, ask me tomorrow and we'll go over it. And let's start talking about the local knowledge of Marina del Rey. So here's Marina del Rey. Okay, here's California Yacht Club. It's right on this peninsula right here. You got the long tow out to the ocean, and the race course is right around here. So the average wind direction at this venue is probably about like 243 degrees, okay, which if you look at this compass, here's 240, so it's pretty much directly perpendicular to the shoreline. 90 degrees off the shoreline is the ideal summertime sea breeze wind direction, and that number is very important. It has a lot to do with your tactics and your strategy. A lot of people hate Marina del Rey because of the light, fluky, weird, lumpy conditions that sometimes it has, but when it's at its best, it's one of the best sailing venues on the planet, because the race committee is great at Cal, the course is usually square, and the wind direction is very consistent when it dials in, and it'll sit at the average wind direction, and then it'll dial back and forth 5 to 10 degrees in really predictable oscillations. So it's a really square, even, fair race course for good racing. It comes down to boat speed a lot of the time. So the average wind direction in the middle of summer with a full sea breeze and perfect ideal Marina Del Rey conditions, the average wind direction is 243.678534242, 4242428769345345 degrees. And that's with a full good sea breeze, and then it'll oscillate between 5 to 10 degrees in either direction. And it fills into a wind pattern that's predictable, and you can take advantage of it and hit the shifts. Usually they're so obvious, and in smart fleets, that the whole fleet will be on starboard tack in the right phase, and the whole fleet will be on port tack in the left phase. So there's our right phase diagram and left phase diagram. So when the wind direction clocks from straight down the page to, that wasn't straight, but it's supposed to be, to the right wind direction, 10 degrees to the right. Okay, so then you get the 248 degrees right wind direction. Then you get the left-hand wind direction.